All the or bad ideas.
My, how the tables have turned. No longer am I the young high school student with a podcast. In this project, hear about my transition to Purdue University, making a futon and some other stuff too. As always, great stories to share and ideas to talk about in this episode. Whether you went to college or mastered a skill at a trade school, amateur or expert, there's something in this episode just for you. It's a long episode, so brace yourselves. As always, I'm hilarious, and it starts right now. All right, welcome to the first podcast episode not recorded from my desk in my basement at home. A lot has changed since the last time I spoke to you. I am no longer coming from my home. No longer am I working on my shop. I am now coming to you from a practice room in the Honors College at Purdue University because I cannot find a better place, or I've yet to find a better place on campus to record this podcast. But that's right, you heard correct. I am no longer a freeloader at home. I am a open, hard studying, workaholic, try-hard college student, and I've officially moved out and moved into my dorm room here at Purdue University. If you don't know already, which I'd be surprised if you didn't, I'm pursuing political science and economics. That's in two different departments here at Purdue University. They call that a dual degree because it's in separate schools. So maybe if you're a Purdue alumni listening to this podcast, that means I'm going to Kreinert, which is the School of Management, obviously the liberal arts college here at Purdue. And besides that, I'm also in the Honors College, which has its own responsibilities, and I'm trying to find a better word. I wouldn't call them benefits or prestige. It's more like just extra work for very little gain. Although the dorms here at the college are really nice, and I want to talk about them later in the podcast, but all I'll tell you right now is that the building that I'm recording this podcast in right now isn't even a year old. As a matter of fact, it opened up, I think, late August of 2016, and right now it's 2017. So hopefully I don't date the podcast there by saying that. But like I said, this building is not even a year old, but it's a very nice facility. It's a completely new dorm here on campus, and that's exactly what it is. It has some classrooms, has some common spaces, has some huge, there's this huge room called, I don't know what to call it. It's like the Hogwarts cafeteria. It's that big cafeteria from Harry Potter at the Great Hall. Is that what it's called? But anyway, it's literally set up like that. It has all of the wood detail with the really high shelves and the wood tables that go all the way front to back with wood chairs, and it's all dark colored, and they have that huge stage and everything. It's a pretty nice getup. It's kind of nice to see that even though we've kind of pushed ourselves into this modern era of clean, sheen, plastic, metal, vinyl stuff, and yet we can still see fine craftsmanship and great woodworking in some of our finest institutions and in some of our newest facilities and our finest institutions. So interesting to see how woodworking is kind of finding its way into the future. As a matter of fact, this is a creator podcast, so I love to point those kinds of things out. So leaving the shop was, I thought, going to be very hard. I've talked about it a million times. I'm very fortunate enough to have a house with a separately attached shop, a workshop that I use semi-frequently. I won't say frequently. I would love to say frequently, but it's not at all frequently. I'll just give you an idea. So my table project is not done. If you've listened to previous episodes, you know about my table project. If you go to my first post I made on Instagram, which I posted like 2 weeks after I started on this table project, the first post I made about this table was in April. Okay? Before I left for school, it was like August 10th. The table was still not done. I set it up, but the table legs still need to be painted, and one more table leg still needs to be sanded before I paint it. So that's literally how often I get in the shop. Although, even though I had a longer summer, I was able to, besides working on the table, I was able to make 2 more woodworking projects. One was, I talked about already, was Adirondack chairs from my uncle's cabin up in the UP, which one of my pet peeves now is that people don't know what UP is, and UP is Upper Peninsula, Michigan. So if you don't know, Michigan has two parts. And if you've never heard of the Mackinac Bridge or Mackinac Island, like, who are you and where do you live? It's obviously not in America. It's definitely not in the Midwest, because you would definitely know what that is. And it was gorgeous up there. I'd love to talk about it more. I'll talk about it later probably. And then the other thing that I was actually able to make is the rails or the sides for a futon. So one of the unique things about going to Purdue University and living in the dorms is that you can basically rent everything from them. You can rent a loft, which is kind of dumb. They don't let you make your own loft, but it's like the stupid thing is it's all ridiculously expensive, and you can only rent your loft, that's how they call it. Lofting your bed is renting the loft. You can only rent it from this one company, and they basically have like a monopoly over the whole system, over all of campus. And then you can rent a microwave and a fridge and a futon from them. And I was not going to do any of those things because here's the stupid thing. A mini fridge, okay? A mini fridge brand new is like $200. And a microwave, I just bought a cheap one. It's like $50, like $230 for the pair. Brand new, right? Buying it, okay? To rent a mini fridge and a microwave, which is by the same company. Again, the company that has a monopoly over all of that renting systems here at the university. It's $180 for the pair of microwave and refrigerator to rent for 1 year. And if you ask me, that is kind of ridiculous. So I didn't do that. I was actually very fortunate enough to be gifted a year-old mini fridge. I didn't get a microwave, but I bought one because I had all this food and the kitchen. The really cool thing about this honors college is they have communal spaces, like the practice rooms, obviously, which I'm in right now. And they have a kitchen, they have rec areas, they have a laundry room. It's all shared. But you have to check it out, which is stupid. So you have to go to the front desk and get a key. I'm lucky that my room is right on top of the front desk. So the front desk is on the front door on the first floor. My room is like above it somewhat. It's like above it off to the side. But anyway, so it's really convenient to go to the front desk, but the kitchen is on like the opposite side of the building. And if you're I'm trying to describe this to you. If you're not familiar with the Honors College at Purdue, there's two buildings. There's north and south, but they act like they're one building. They share facilities. There's two kitchens, but there's one rec room and there's one laundry room for both buildings, and they're both connected underneath via a tunnel. And they share the practice rooms too, but the kitchen is so far away. I mean, it's like one thing for like if you're baking a pie in your oven and you still want to cook yourself something for dinner and going to your neighbor's house and putting something in there. It's a completely different thing to like go to the house at the end of the street, and that's what it feels like if I want to put like ramen in the microwave. So that's why I really wanted my own microwave. And the other thing that ticks me off too is that the kitchens aren't like equivalent in terms of equipment. So I'm in North, and the equipment in the South kitchen is like, they have a real stove with a real range and a real fridge and a real sink. They have kind of weird counters, but that didn't really matter to me. But the North kitchen, which is the building that I'm in, and the closest kitchen, which is still on the other side of the building from me, these are fairly large buildings. I mean, they have to house approximately 2,000 students in this building, or the combination of the two. So I mean, they're fairly large buildings. So anyway, the kitchen's on the other side, the North kitchen, and it only has a microwave. It has an oven, but it does not have a stove top, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, the other thing that ticks me off too is that obviously all the showers have hot water. I've never had an issue with the shower not being hot enough, but the issue that I have is that the sinks aren't hooked up to any hot water. The only sinks that are hooked up to hot water, I think, are in the kitchen downstairs, which is in the basement, and the art room, I think, has a sink, ? I'm sure there's other, like utility closets and stuff that have sinks, but that really ticks me off because even if I cook my own stuff in my room, I can't just go to the bathroom sink and clean it out. I have to go downstairs. I have to check out a key to the kitchen at the front desk. Then go down to the basement and go into the kitchen, wash my dishes, and go back. And the other thing too is that I'm on the complete opposite side of the building where there's an elevator, which to me really isn't that big of a deal, but it's just a convenience thing. Honestly, I probably, they talk about the freshman 15 in college. If you're not familiar with that term, it's like when kids go to college, they gain like 15, 20 pounds, like in the first month. And one of my buddies here at Purdue is actually on the unlimited meal plan. So we'll just see if that actually happens to him or not. But Typically, it's with the because all the dining courts are buffet style. There's so much good food, you can't handle yourself. And you just eat too much. And I'm trying to restrict myself. I'm also trying to keep myself with a balanced meal. You have no idea how hard it is to eat right when you have so many options and so many good options at just about every single meal. I mean, the dining courts here are fabulous here at Purdue University. I cannot lie about that one bit. They're all pretty convenient too. Like if you remember, maybe you're old enough to remember back in the day when each dorm had its own dining court. Not the way it is here at Purdue or any modern college anymore. I think most of the small colleges have like one dining court that feeds everybody in the university. But here at Purdue, they've built two dining courts, and then they've converted dining courts in some of the dorms to be larger, which I think there's 6 dining courts. I think 3 of them are technically still in residence halls. I think that's right. But I'm on the 13 meal plan, which basically gives me 2 meals every day and 1 on Sunday, which the dining courts aren't open Sunday night, so it kind of works out. And I kind of thought when I was leaving home, I'm the man of the house. Okay, it's me, my mom, and my sister. And my sister's basically non-existent because she's either gone or she's in a room, so it's like she's not there. But I am the man of the house. I'm the one making sure everything's working. I'm the one mowing the grass. I'm the one, kind of. I have my eye on everything. And other parents I talked to about going to college didn't seem to understand what I was worried about by being away from home so much. I mean, if you have like a vacation home, maybe you understand because it's like taking care of 2 residences. That's kind of what I feel like. And my second residence is definitely not the same as it is back home. But it's been 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, which is technically not the longest time I've been away from home. The longest period of time I've ever been away from home was a little over 2 weeks when I went with a friend of mine, and we spent 2 weeks in New York City and Washington, D.C., an amazing trip. And one of my greatest memories, we took this trip when I was in 8th grade. It was Christmas break, 8th grade. And this trip was just like, it was just set up to be great. It was just from the get-go, it was just like, it was meant to be great. I remember, all I can remember is that it was one day at lunch. I think it was that Thursday before Christmas break was supposed to start. It started that Friday afternoon. And my friend, I knew he was going to New York because he has family in New York City. I mean, who has family in New York City? But anyway, he did, and I knew he was going, and I wanted to ask him if I could go with him. It was kind of like a joke. Like, I wasn't even being serious. I mean, I was like 12 or 13 at the time. So I didn't mean to be serious, but I guess it came out that way. And then when I was joking with him, I said, "Hey, can I go?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. You want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, let's do it." And then he was like, "Are you serious?" Like, not really. He's like, "I'm serious. You want to go?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so he goes home, he asks his parents. His parents say yes, which if you know his parents definitely don't say yes to anything, so that was kind of out of the norm. But I asked my mom, who never says no to anything, and she says no. She's like, "It's too long of a time to be away from home." I mean, being in college now, 2 weeks sounds kind of ridiculous to be away from, as too long to be away from home. But I mean, I don't know, 12, 13, different times. But anyway, I was at school the next day, and I'm getting on the bus to go home, okay? And my friend is literally, as soon as he gets home, his stuff's already packed, he is going, okay? I get on the bus, and there's like a 10-minute window between when the end of the day bell rings and when the buses actually leave. And I remember I was sitting there probably midway on the bus, and my mom gets on, and she says, "You're going on the trip." I was like, "What?" It's like she just showed up out of nowhere. "You're going on the trip, Lee. You're going on the trip." I was like, "What?" And so I get off the bus, go home, pack in like 5 minutes, get in the car, and we're gone off to the city. One of the greatest trips ever. And that wasn't even the memory I was trying to get to. So the greatest part of the trip was we spent a week in New York City for Christmas, and then the following week we're going to be in Baltimore /DC /Delaware because they had never been to Delaware and they wanted to do something in Delaware, and we never got to Delaware, sadly. But what happened was that we stayed in this house that was, I mean, it's been torn down, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. The place was a dump. Like, you had to keep a bucket in the dining room because there was no ceiling, and the water from the shower would just go straight to the first floor up from upstairs, and the place was just torn up. It was the floorboards were rotted, and the kitchen was trash. I mean, it was a pretty beat up place, but we stayed there for a week, and so you can imagine we ate out pretty much every meal. But my friend's aunt insisted that she make us a home cooked meal before we left, and it was like baked ziti with salad, and the thing is that we can't, like, we're trying to look back now, or we tried to look back at that meal after we left, and we couldn't figure out what the heck anybody had ate, because everyone ate like something different. Like somebody ate the noodles without the cheese, somebody ate the noodles without the sausage, somebody didn't have any salad. It was like, what the heck caused food poisoning? We left the following day to go to our hotel in Baltimore, and we moved in, we set our stuff down, we got in the hotel, slept, woke up, his mom had vomited like all night long. Like, she was sick. So then my friend's dad went to go get her some like seltzer water, and then on the way back, he threw up. And then when he got back, he was telling us the situation, and we're like, oh no, great, our trip's ruined. And so then I get up, and then I'm up for like an hour, we're watching something on TV, and then I get up to brush my teeth at the sink. I brush my teeth, and then when I go to like spit out the toothpaste, like I just vomit right there, right there in the sink. And then my friend, he's similar. Him and I are the same age, so he was just grossed out 13-year-old, and this is like the middle of January, and he spent the whole day outside shooting hoop at the hotel the whole day because he didn't want to be around us, because he seriously thought we were sick. But we discovered that we had food poisoning from something in that meal, which is, still to this day, we have no idea what caused that, whether it was the fact that the salad wasn't cleaned, or maybe there's something in the cheese or the sausage. But I mean, those things were baked, so I mean, they should have been fine. But like I said, everybody had something different at that meal, so we're not quite sure. But we were all out for like 3 days. We did nothing. I remember we had to get a second room because my friend and I were sleeping on a fold out, and his dad was just like, we're all sick, let's just get our own beds. We got a second room, and I'm trying to remember, my friend and I just watched like A&E on loop on cable, and FX too, probably. We watched like Grown Ups. I watched that like 3 times. Balls of Fury. We watched all these stereotypical like movies that are on cable like all the time. Besides like A Few Good Men and Back to the Future, like we watched those movies all the time, like the whole day, multiple days. So we were out for 3 days, and we got back on the trip. But that was one of the greatest memories I have ever had on a trip. Being sick. Not some extraordinary thing that happened on the trip. Being sick is actually one of the most memorable parts of a trip I actually ever remember. I know how sad that is, but anyway, the whole point of that story was basically saying that trip was the longest time I'd ever been away from home, because I was gone that Friday night, like Friday evening, to literally the Sunday before I went back to school. So I was gone an incredibly long time. So I haven't quite hit that full 2-week mark yet in terms of like being away from home, but I'm still kind of anxious about it. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to have the separate shop, in the sense that I can just like quit what I'm doing. And the fact that I'm the only one who uses it too kind of matters with this. But I am the only one who uses it. It's separate. Whenever I work out there and I make a mess, I can just shut the door on the place, lock it, and just leave. So like my workbench is like, it's like, imagine like stopping mid-project like 10 times, and all the tools, all the supplies you have out, all of the templates, the nails, the screws, like my bench is like mid-project times 10. Definitely some cleaning that needs to be done out there, but the place is just a pit, which is fine. I don't really care how clean the shop is. Obviously everybody wants to have a clean shop, but not everybody does. And I am included in that. But I have bigger things that I'm worrying about. The other thing too is that, like, I'm sure you probably have either you're old enough to have parents who live by themselves who are older, or maybe you have a parent who lives by themselves, or you can just know somebody you kind of worry about when they live by themselves. And I'm not saying that I'm worried about my mother. I mean, she's more than capable of taking care of herself. It's just that if there were like an emergency were to arise, like there's not much she can do. Like there was a situation a couple years ago. I want to say it was 3 years ago now, where I was at drum major camp. Because if you don't remember, I was a drum major in high school of the marching band, and I was at camp, which I was gone for a week, and we had like record-breaking rainfall that week. And I was the only one that knew what to do in the case of a flood. And I've taught my mom, but she's just not strong enough to be able to like manipulate the pumps or the generator or anything like that. And so she couldn't do anything, and she woke up one morning and the basement had 6 inches of water in it, and so much stuff was lost. I mean, so much of it was junk. But at the same point, I was really pissed off that somebody had to come in and tear up the carpet and tear up the drywall to dry out the basement. I thought that was incredibly unnecessary because that carpet and that drywall had been through several floods. And B, it was just like there's nothing she could do, and she just had to sit there until somebody came and did something. And even though I was at camp, I was like 2 hours away. She knew I was at camp. She didn't want to bother me, which I was really upset about. But what can you do? The other thing I think about too, with a lot of those circumstances like that, is that it's not my house. My name's not on the title. My name's not on that's for vehicles. My name's not on the deed. Most of that stuff isn't mine. It's my parents'. It's my mom's, since she lives by herself. Most of that stuff doesn't belong to me. And especially now that I'm here, a lot of the things I thought I was obligated to do, like taking care of the house, taking care of my mom, doing things like that, I just don't feel that same obligation anymore because it's not mine. Like, that house is a great house. It's a great location. It's a great house. It's got a great yard, great square footage, which I don't want to lose the house. Is kind of where I'm getting at with that. Like if my mom were to move out or die or something like that, I would want the house, maybe. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just not mine. And so a lot of the messes, a lot of the junk that's piled up over the years, I feel like I need to do something about. But at the end of the day, it's like it's just not mine. And I really shouldn't feel obligated or stress out about having to do things around the house or do things like that. Like I talk about this in a zillion podcast episodes about my dad's tool collection. And it's not just that the antique tools that he had, but it's all the other tools that he just kind of piled up over the years. And the whole debate about whether to keep those or get rid of those. And there's just so many of them. And I feel like I got to do something about them. But again, they're not mine. I mean, they technically belong to my mom legally. She treats them like they're mine. But at the end of the day, I mean, I really shouldn't stress out about that kind of stuff. I should be more focused on like what I'm doing here, which is kind of interesting being away from home, as I thought I was going to be wanting to get home all the time to do all this stuff at home and make sure my mom's okay. The other thing is that I usually do stuff for my neighbors too. And so I have a great feeling that the 3 or 4 people that I would usually mow their lawn for while they're gone, like wintering in Florida, they're going to call me again, even though I've already told them, I am at college, I cannot mow your lawn, sorry. Anyway, I don't feel that obligation to go home. I just don't. The other thing too is I thought I would be forgetting stuff. I really haven't forgotten anything. Like I have everything I need, and it's kind of nice being in this circumstance because I can do a lot in terms of focusing on my studies and doing that. And even though technically it was only the 3rd day of classes, still rocking the system, still having to learn everything. I had completely forgotten in high school what it was like to be a freshman. And I don't think I really ever had that feeling because I was involved with the high school a lot, even though I was in middle school. And in college, it's like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what to do. I'm not familiar with any of the online programs at all. And it's a complete new learning curve. And I know it's only the 3rd day, but it's still kind of overwhelming. Especially the amount of people too. I'm a people person. That's not an issue. It's just I'm not used to being around so many people, and it's just unique being around all the different ethnic backgrounds and the languages and the accents. Like, don't accuse me of being stereotypical or racist or whatever. If you think that, then you're listening to the wrong podcast. But so today, or I guess the last couple of days, I have in my calc class, there's a whole row of Asian students. I don't know whether they're Japanese or Korean or Chinese. I apologize, but there's a row of Asian students that sit in my class. And one of them spoke, like one of them asked a question. This is like the third day of calc class, and neither of them spoke, and they're all in the front row. And the guy who asked the question had the thickest British accent I have ever heard. And like everyone else in the class is like looked at each other with astonishment, like what the heck just happened? And it was a really crazy moment. And like a lot of things have happened has happened. Like a lot of things like that have happened in the last couple of days. The other thing too is that it's weird getting used to is like, it's hard to imagine being like a foreign student or an exchange student in America having to learn from American teachers. Like it's really hard to imagine being a student like that. From having to live in a new house and, with unfamiliar people and unfamiliar culture, with different norms and trying to understand dialect and language, especially if it's not your first language. I'm not saying that I'm experiencing different languages here, although I am taking Spanish, which I'm really upset about. But anyway, what's really different is that of the 5 professors that I have, only one of them was born in America. And that is not political commentary. All I'm saying that it's interesting to have to get used to the dialects. I mean, I have a teacher that's Jamaican. I have a teacher that's Indian. I have a teacher that is Australian. It's just really a different. It's just weird how the university brings those kind of people to West Lafayette, Indiana, the middle of the Midwest. But it's interesting to have to learn from the different dialects and the accents. Like I said, it's just like being in the shoes of a foreign student. So the other thing I was kind of worried about too, or I guess I was thinking about, is that I wanted to make, I thought I was going to make a ton of stuff for my room, and I only had enough time to make one thing, and I'm glad I only made that thing, because even though I'm a triple, it's not as large of a room as you think. And when I say I'm in a triple, that means there's 3 people in the room. I have 2 roommates. So it's definitely a larger room, which I kind of like. It's kind of nice. I think the reason that they put me in a triple is just because I'm on a full ride scholarship to Purdue, and because of that, they want to spend as little money on me as possible. I'm not paying a dime to go to Purdue. So that's really awesome. Anyway, I thought I was going to make like a dry rack. I thought I was going to make like a custom shelf and some other things like that. Never did, praise the Lord, because I would have no room for those things. But I did make rails, like I talked about, like the sides of a futon. I really don't have a good way to describe it. And the really ironic thing about me doing anything with a futon is that I don't get why futons are so popular in college. Like, why is it that everybody wants a futon? Like, what my always thing was like, my thing was always like, if you're gonna have a futon, why not just have a regular couch? Like, futons suck. Like, get a couch. You're in a small dorm room. You'll never ever need to fold out a futon. And that was my philosophy from early age. Yes, from early age, I had an opinion on having futons in college. And here I am, a college student with a custom-made futon. Very ironic. But so there's a story behind this, though. So I had no plan of getting a futon. And kind of like I talked about earlier, you can rent a futon from the company that works with Purdue, but the futons are complete shit. They're not comfortable. They're small. They're close to the ground. It's like, why would you ever get a futon? Especially because it's $150 to rent the stupid thing, and the thing's not even worth it. But people do, and I guess people live and learn. But anyway, I was coming back. If you don't remember, I worked at a nursery over the summer, and I was coming back from work one day, and there was a futon on the side of the road. I think the mattress was there. I really don't remember. But like the rails, it looks like it sat in the shed for a really long time because the rails that were wood were like covered in mold and mildew and moss, and the whole thing itself was just covered in dust, and the mattress was disgusting. And so I got the frame home, and really the only thing I got from that was the mechanism. I had to remake the rails, and I had to buy a new mattress, which really wasn't that big of a deal, which I've learned some things since I've bought the mattress that I did for this futon. But I ended up remaking the rails, which really wasn't that hard. It was kind of a push to get that done before I came here, but it worked out great. The futon that I have is also like a full-size futon. I think the dimensions are 75 by 54, and the futons that Purdue provides are like 60 by 40. I mean, they're ridiculously small. But anyway, so I have the futon now. I bought a $75 mattress off Amazon, which I think is a cheap mattress, as I've learned, because it's like if you sit down on the mattress, like you can feel like the rungs of the futon frame, like underneath it. So I need to get a better mattress, but this mattress is also light, which made it easy for transporting. And then the other thing is too, is that the really cool thing that colleges have now, and this is kind of like a scheme by Amazon, but college students get free Amazon Prime, which if you don't know what Amazon Prime is, it's it's basically Amazon's, Friars Club, or, Country Club, or whatever you want to call it. It's their special members. You're a member of Amazon by joining Amazon Prime. But you get access to their web service. I think there's some other amenities, but the only other one I can think of is free 2-day shipping. And regularly Amazon Prime's like $180 a month or something like that. But college students get it free for the first 6 months, and then I think it's $50 a month after that. But I'm just using my sister's. I'm not even using my own. So on this huge, like $75 mattress that came in this huge box that was taller than me, I got free shipping on, which is a score, because there's no way that anybody would ever send anything like that for free, especially something that's big, like especially something that is that big. But anyway, the futon works. It's comfortable. Roommates enjoy it. I enjoy it. I just like having a place to put my shoes on that's not my desk chair. So I'm really enjoying that. Glad I have it. Not ironic anymore. I really do appreciate having the futon. The other thing that came in clutch too was actually that my neighbor gave me a mini fridge, and then she also gave me like this egg carton memory foam mattress thing for my mattress here at to sleep on. Total must have. The mattresses here suck. The memory foam thing is great. Everyone I know is envious of this thing. Well, everyone that's laid on it, which is not many, but everyone that's laid on it is totally envious of how comfortable my bed is. But I had some, just going back to the whole creator podcast side of this podcast, I had some issues with the futon mechanism. I measured, the first thing is I made the actual rails basically the same dimensions as I originally found it. Different design, but basically the same dimensions in terms of for the rails. But the holes, like where the mechanism screwed onto the frame, I thought were just too low after testing it, and so I pushed them up like 2 or 3 inches, and that turned out okay. But now I've got a high setting, I've got like a low setting on my futon, which is whatever. And then I had a hard time trying to figure out how to screw on the armrest. When I made my Adirondack chairs, you just screw the armrest on through the top. So like the screw holes are visible from the armrest, which I don't like that look. So I tried to avoid that. Basically what I did for this futon design, you can actually look at a post on Instagram that has the rough design, or not the rough design, it has like the cutout parts put together for this futon. It looks like a ladder, so it has 3 rungs, and so there's I think it's like a 3-inch gap between each rung, I guess. And so I put holes so that way I could screw up into the armrest, but I couldn't get a screwdriver in there. I couldn't get a drill in there. I couldn't do anything to screw it on, so I had to just screw on the armrest through the top, which visually looks terrible, but I mean, in terms of function, it's in a college dorm room. It's not like I made this for, the state capitol or Purdue's, union or something that's supposed to look nice. So it definitely solved the problem. I painted it with some paint I got out of the trash, so no cost there, just a lot of cost of my time. I would say, in terms of money I spent on this project, the futon probably cost, I don't know, you have to include hardware. Because I had to buy bolts for it, so I would say $80, maybe $100. I think a really cheap futon from Walmart is $97, but that's a piece of shit. So I'm really glad I have this futon that I do. And I really do need to buy a better mattress, but this mattress is going to get me through the year. And the other thing is that mattresses probably get destroyed, over time anyway, especially in a dorm room. So I'm sure it'll last till the end of the year. Maybe I'll probably have to buy a new one. But that's really actually the nice thing about having a futon is so my parents moved into my house in 1989. And all of the furniture in that house is original. So the furniture in my living room is 30 years old. So that's a 30-year-old couch. It's been the same couch that was there before I was born, and it's filthy. There's not really much you can do besides replacing the whole couch. The great thing about a futon is that you buy a new mattress and you have a new couch. You have a new futon. Boom. Done. That's all it takes. It's pretty nice, actually. That's one of the pros I thought about having this futon. But then going back to like some of the like the craftsmanship and some of the design behind this futon is that like when I was making it, when I made this ladder thing, like I'm not Matthias Wandel. I don't have a Panta router to cut out a mortise and tenon for each piece to line them up. I basically just planed down 2x4s, and that's basically how I made this. It was nice and easy, really quick, really strong, heavy, but durable. Just how we like it. But when I cut out the joints, I did, instead of doing, like I said, instead of doing mortise and tenon, I did like a lap joint. So like I would cut, I'm trying to describe, it's just hard to describe. Like, so you had the rail piece, and I would cut basically, instead of having a tenon centered on the piece, like the tenon was like half of the 2x4, if that makes sense. So then it would overlap with the vertical piece, so the horizontal would overlap the vertical piece, and so I had to cut off like rabbets/dados on the ends of each rail, and then in the slot I had to cut slots in the rails. And I actually tried a new method for doing that. I would use a dado stack. Like, I would love to use a dado stack, except I don't have a dedicated sled for dado stacks. And honestly, I really don't need a dado stack that often, because I usually, if it's just like, if I have to cut a dado, like just one dado, there's no reason to set up a dado stack. And I'm sure you're in agreement with me on that. Like, there's no reason to. Maybe if you're cutting a big dado, but otherwise, there's just no reason to take the time to set up a dado stack. It's just, little cuts over and over and over again. But one thing that Matthias Wandel does, and I don't want to call him out, but he's one of those woodworkers online that he just doesn't care. Like, he's going to post what he wants to post, and he's going to do, when he's making something, he's going to do it whatever way that he wants, regardless of what the YouTube community says and the safety freaks say about what he's doing. He doesn't care. And his method of cutting dados with one blade is he basically cuts like every other slot. So he gets like I don't know. It's like he cuts it really quick, and then what he does is he goes back with a hammer, and he beats out all of these wood chunks. I'm describing it really poorly, but like he cuts like every other slot on the dado, and then he beats it all out, and then he goes back on the table saw and cleans it. Well, when I tried that, I did that exact method on 2 of the joints, and so this is on the 3rd joint, and I went back to go clean it up, and the workpiece caught on the blade, and I got kickback, and it threw back. And the thing is, I'm holding this workpiece with my hand, and the piece kicked back in such a way that my finger got caught on the blade, and I didn't. It's not like I lost a finger, but it did like destroy the end of my finger. And here we sit. I want to say 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks ago from this point, from when I'm recording this podcast. And I still I'm gonna have like a permanent dent in the top of my finger. Like, it cut from the nail, like it basically cut down to the nail. Like, I didn't lose any nerves. I mean, I lost a lot of blood, but I didn't lose any nerves. I still have feeling on my finger, but like it's my ring finger that got cut, and it cut like, just hold your hand out in front of your face and stare at your hand and look at your ring finger and look how much skin there is between the top of your finger and the top of your fingernail, and that's how deep the cut was. And the thing is about table saw cuts is that, like, I've had a couple of them and they just don't hurt. Like, they get a little sore, but they don't really hurt that much, especially like right after they happen. Like, I don't think there's enough nerves in the tips of your fingers for to have a lot of pain. But it definitely bled a long time. It was a pain in the ass, especially because I had to try out for Purdue's All-American Marching Band on clarinet, and I was really worried about that because I had to have a Band-Aid like around my whole finger. And if you know anything about playing clarinet, which is what I was trying out on in the band, it's really hard to play clarinet because you have to cover the holes, and you have to get like a seal. So fingers are great at sealing the holes on a clarinet to make notes come out, but they're not great when you have a Band-Aid on the finger. Which, ironically enough, I'm in the band. I'm not in the clarinet section, but ironically enough, they said I didn't make the band because of my playing, which I never explained to them like what happened to my finger. But honestly, I really didn't care. Like, I didn't want to march and play at the same time. I was drum major the last 2 years. I love being drum major. I hated being a marching band. I loved being drum major. And I was not about to be a marching band again and actually have to memorize music and play an instrument at the same time while marching, because Purdue's marching is insanely hard. Like, it is like you think band kids are band kids. Purdue's band kids are not band kids. They are elite athletes. That marching is so hard. They do what's called like a low chair, which is basically like make a right angle with your leg every step, and that's how they march. And then imagine doing that for 2 miles. Like, it is hard. It's very hard on your body, and you develop serious calf muscles. And the other thing is too is that you have to be able to bend your foot, basically so it's in line with your leg. Like, you have to have some serious flexibility in your ankle in order to march like they do. I mean, total awe. Like, the band is great. The program is great. Has a great history, which I love history. So I'm absolutely ecstatic to be a part of this band. I technically tried out for 3 different sections. But I'm in the band though, so that's what matters. Even though I tried out for 3 sections, I'm technically in the All-American Marching Band at Purdue University, which, in my opinion, is the best marching band in the Midwest. If not the country, that is United States. That is, because I'm just like go online, like just Google Purdue marching band and just watch some of the videos. Like, I don't care what Ohio State does. Ohio State's all brass. They are not a marching band. They are a drum and bugle corps. Like, they're not a marching band. And then there's just nothing like it. Like, go to the Indy 500, go to the Indy 500 parade and watch Purdue's marching band. It is just incredible what they do. Watch some of their halftime shows. Purdue is definitely the greatest band in the United States, if not the world. And the other thing too is that they have like this. So I tried out for clarinets, like I said, and then after the first day of band camp, so band camp's a week long, 7 days. I was asked because of my attitude, which was a complete lie. I was asked to audition for the big bass drum. So if you know anything about Purdue's marching band, you know that they have the world's largest drum. And yes, that phrase is trademarked. So don't you dare try to put it on your drum or anything else, because that phrase, the world's largest drum, is trademarked by Purdue University, and actually it says on the drum, world's largest drum. And there's so much great history about the drum, that was actually a requirement to be on the team. You had to pass a physical test, you had to learn how to handle the huge drum, and then you had to take a history test about the drum. So like since its existence. So like the drum was made in 1921 it was commissioned by the band director at the time, who was Paul Spots Emmerich, and then he asked this guy to make it, this drum company. Actually, it was a pretty big deal back in the 20s, because the company that designed it, the leading company, and that made it, once they made it, it was huge publicity. Like, imagine there being Twitter in the 1920s, and this would have been like the number one trending thing for weeks, was the invention of this huge bass drum. Like, it was on show at Circle Theater, then it was at the State Fair, and then after all that, it actually finally went to Purdue's marching band. And here's the thing I want to clarify about being the world's largest drum. Okay, it is the world's largest freestanding drum. So, like, if you were to go see a drum that's bigger than this drum, those drums have supports that help, like, reinforce the shell of the drum, or supports that help the drum stand up, or anything like that. This drum is a true drum in all senses of the word, all meanings of the word. It is a freestanding, non-support drum. It is made with 3 laminated layers of maple wood, which you can imagine 1920s, they had old wood. And if you know anything about woodworking, you know that old wood is superior wood, just like wood, like the colonists would have encountered when they came to America. Like, that is old wood, and that's what this drum is made out of. Far superior building material. And it was the original, like, drum heads, like the part that actually you beat with what they call a beater, is now made out of plastic, but back then it was actually made out of Argentinian steer, which is like cattle. So it's made out of like a really strong leather. But the really cool thing about this drum is that almost everything is original. The only thing that's not original on the drum is the drum heads, obviously, that are replaced every single year. But like the shell of it, like the 3 laminated layers of maple are original since 1921. The steel frame the drum sits on is original to 1921. the wheels have been changed. I mean, the tires have been changed. Who knows how many times? But the wheels themselves were originally bicycle tires, and now they're actually Model A racing tires. So I mean, they're still the wheels themselves are still well over 100 years old because they're from a Model A, obviously. But the tires have been custom made for the drum and been changed who knows how many times. But absolutely great tradition. And the drum it's been a lot of places. It's actually been a lot of wrecks. Actually, in 1976. Which would have been the nation's bicentennial, the drum actually fell off a pickup truck because that's how they literally that's how they get this drum places. Like, this drum is 10 feet tall, and they don't want to rent a box truck. Chevrolet actually donates a truck every year, a new truck every year, to the band and orchestra at Purdue University to haul this drum around. Like, that's literally what the pickup truck is for, and they strap it in. And they take it wherever they're going, whether that's an away game, whether that's Indianapolis for something. This drum goes everywhere. It does a lot of special events too. It is like the icon of Purdue University. Like, look at Purdue University on Instagram and look at their picture. Like, look at the picture of the university. Like, look at the avatar for the university on its Instagram. Like, it is the drum. Like, this drum is a big deal here. Not gonna lie, and I'm not biased either. But the drum actually fell off off the truck on the interstate and destroyed the living shit out of a semi. Like, it crushed it rolled down the highway, it smacked into a semi and destroyed it. The drum was virtually unharmed, but the semi was destroyed. That's how great this drum is made. And then actually it received most of its damage actually in 2013 when the band went to Ireland, and U.S. Customs, like, I don't understand what they had to do to get the drum in and out of the airplane, but the drum was virtually, I want to say destroyed. It was just very damaged, and it took thousands of dollars of repairs to get the drum back to back to the expected state that it's supposed to be. But the drum is fine now. It's going to be around for another 100 years. And the other thing too is that the drum has a rival. It's not really a rival anymore because Purdue and Texas never play each other. But shortly after the drum was made, it was taken to the Chicago World's Fair, I believe, and Chicago just fell in love with it. So the University of Chicago, who was one of the original Big Ten Conference members, wanted their own drum for their band. And they commissioned somebody to make it, and they made this drum that was huge, basically the same size or bigger, if not bigger, than Purdue's drum. But they never played it. They never used it. It was just for show. It was it basically wasn't even a drum. Like, they never used it for anything. It was pulled out and put away. And then after World War II, it was just shoved in a closet for during World War II. And then when they got it out, they didn't really want it anymore. So they sold it to the University of Texas. Oh, I remember what happened now. There were tests for the Manhattan Project at the University of Chicago. No idea why. But anyway, the drum actually got soaked with radiation, and the drum was no longer usable. So they gave it to a Texas alumni for $1, and that guy paid for the drum to be deradiated or whatever, and then he gave the drum to the University of Texas, where it still stands today. And they only roll it out for special occasions, for pictures. They never play it, they never beat it, and then they put it away. It's never a part of their shows. They never use it in parades. Purdue's drum is used all the frickin' time for everything. They do tricks with it. It's in every halftime show, pregame show, pep band, parade. It's always used. But the drum that's at the University of Texas is called Big Bertha. So if you want to look it up, go ahead, look it up. Both drums have an incredible history, except I really wouldn't consider the University of Texas's drum a drum. It's just not a drum, flat out, just honest. But like I said, Purdue and Texas never play each other, so that rivalry never happens. But actually, it was in 1961 at the United States Kappa Kappa Psi convention, which, if you don't know, Kappa Kappa Psi is the band fraternity at colleges, and so they had a convention, and both Big Bertha and Purdue's world's largest drum were brought to this convention. They were going to be tested, measured, weighed to see which was actually the largest drum, and Big Bertha never showed up. And so that's where Purdue's trademarked world's largest drum, because it was captioned, it was named the world's largest drum then, because Big Bertha never showed up. So we don't actually know which drum's bigger, and the actual dimensions of Purdue's world's largest drum are actually only known by crew members, and it's a violation of the code, so to speak, to give out the dimensions of the drum. I don't know if they are because I didn't make the crew. I'm technically on Big Ten flags in the band, which is another long tradition of Big Ten marching bands, is that they have a section that just marches the Big Ten flags, which is like a flag for every school in the Big Ten, which we don't do any tricks. We just literally just hold the flag. So all we have to do is march well. We don't have to memorize music. We have to memorize where we're going on the field, because just like any other section in the marching band, we just march around and make, shapes and such, it's all right. We actually have an opening feature in the pre-show for the Purdue marching band. So if you ever go to a Purdue game, get there in time to see the band, because the Big Ten flags open the show. So just putting that out there. And for those of you that are curious as to which flag that I march, if you ever have an opportunity to see the band, parade, Big Ten game, any circumstance that the band's playing and you see the Big Ten flags, I march the Michigan flag. One of my buddies, his favorite school is Michigan. That's kind of why I chose it. And then the other thing too is that I'm told that at the games that we play at, which is home games and one away game, that we get our picture taken with the mascot of that school. So like, because I'm Michigan, I guess I get a picture with the Wolverine. I guess I've never seen the mascot of Michigan, but who knows what could happen on that day. Michigan's actually Purdue's homecoming game. So A, Purdue's going to get crushed. B, I'll get a picture with Michigan's mascot, which will be awesome. It'll be a good time. So this is kind of where I'm going from here. There's a lot more that I missed that's happened in the last 2 weeks I'm going to have to talk about in another episode. In the outro of this podcast, I want to feature an artist who has released their music into the public domain. Artists who release their music into the public domain, I feel like, understand what art is and how it contributes to the world around it. So I'm going to end episode number 13 of the Breeze Creator Podcast with Music That Feeling by Hook Sounds. Check the show notes on the website to learn more about the song and the content in this episode at breezewoodworking.wixsite.com/creatorpodcast. You can tweet at us on Twitter or follow us on Instagram.